welcome to this week's Raqs Talks. I'm Perizaad.
I'm Faizeh.
And this week we have the wonderful Valizan. Yay!
Hey, everybody.
Thank you so much for joining us. I am delighted to have you on here. We have never met in person, I don't think.
Yes, you came to a workshop in
that's right. That was a great workshop too. I loved that workshop.
Thank you.
If you're doing Fat Chance style and you have 10,000 people on the stage, how do you do that? Back when I was still doing that style more regularly, it's more my hobby now. But when I was more focused on that style, Perizaad was in Gin Swizzle for a while, and we had a lot of people. We were always trying to figure out how can we all do this at the same time. So that was a really, really helpful workshop. So thank you.
Yeah, you know what? It's like the way I work myself here in Southern Ontario in Canada is I take my students with me to a lot of outdoor gigs, and just so that they get the actual experience, you know? It's all fine and good to dance together in class where you're very safe. But belly dance is not safe in any way, shape, or form, you know? It is, you're constantly having people criticizing you for your costuming, your body, your whatever, for your skin color, your whatever, you know? And I say, when people come to my class, I said, this is not like other belly dance classes where, you know, every 6 weeks we're gonna throw you out, and then your parents and your friends are gonna come and they're gonna clap for you, yay!
Yeah.
You know, it's like, no, I'm gonna take you out in the street where real people who don't have to sit and watch you if they don't want to will walk by, and if you are an interesting dancer, they will stay and watch you, you know? They may clap. Occasionally there may be money thrown at you in a good way, not in a bad way, you know? Actually, for me, if you're throwing money at me, there is no bad way.
I was just going to say, is there a bad way to have money thrown at you?
Coins.
That's true.
Coins is bad. So for my students, I said, if you go out there, I said, one, this is the way it was originally done. If we're going back in our history, and as you know, my dear Faizeh, I'm interested in the history, you know? I mean, I'm wearing my little right here, you know? But it's like, if you can dance out in the street where the people can see you, and if they don't like you, they're gonna leave, that's your test. For me, that's what makes you a belly dancer. You have to be able to be entertaining. I don't think enough teachers focus on showmanship when they're teaching. It's technique. Let's adapt to Effie's problem. Susie won't put her arms up. We're tweaking the individuals, but we don't prepare people for the fact that the audience may not like what you're doing. And we pander, and I hate pandering to anybody in any way, shape, or form, whether it's in belly dance or in real life. You have to give 110% of yourself and be bigger than yourself, you know? These people don't care who you are in real life. You're a moment in their life, and you have but a moment to grab them with your performance, you know? So don't be the shy lady you are. Be this bold woman who's dancing in the street with a little bit of cleavage showing, hips swinging, finger cymbals going. It's like, be that person, because once they walk off, they'll only have a pleasant memory of you, and you get to dance and go on with your life again. Like, don't worry about it, you know? But be prepared for that, because being on a big stage is real easy. Being on a sidewalk dancing in front of people is hard, you know? And I prefer to let my students think that dancing on a sidewalk is easy, because I mean, stages have their own issues, you know? It's like, well, don't come here, and you have to wait and whatever. It's like, nah, you're on the sidewalk, go dance whenever, you know? I personally love dancing on the sidewalk or on little street festivals, because I get to be right in people's face, you know? I can see when you're on a big stage and it's a nice big, I mean, don't get me wrong, I like me a nice big stage. I like big stages, I cannot lie, you know? I like a big stage because if you have a nice blackout stage, your costume cannot look bad, you know, no matter what, unless you're wearing, but you can't see your audience half the time. You've got lights shining in your face. Your makeup is melting. You're smiling and you're being theater. But I like dancing on the street where the light is equal for me, and I can see my audience, and I can tell if it's working or not, and I can adjust my performance accordingly. And it doesn't matter if I'm doing Egyptian style or if I'm doing ATS or what I'm doing. You know, if I can see my audience, I can play off them and I can play to them without pandering to them. So anyway, that's me. That's my own little rant right there, you know.
Oh, I love it. Now, you started in Egyptian style, didn't you?
I did.
So tell us the evolution of your dance.
Okay.
Yes.
So
where did you start? Where are you from?
Oh yeah. Who are you anyway? So I live in Hamilton, Ontario, which is an hour outside of Toronto, Canada. I started belly dancing in a medieval group called the Society for Creative Anachronism. Right? I went to an event and I saw people belly dancing up close. And even though Toronto is very ethnic, very multicultural, I had never actually seen belly dance live before. I mean, I knew what it was, but it was this thing that other people did, whatever, it's cool, you know? But I'd never seen people right in front of me doing it. And I was fascinated. It was, of course, there was a little bit of night magic happening because these people were lit by tiki torches and bonfires and the moon, you know, like the three things that it's just beautiful to see. And I mean, I'm going to get all sensual, but like there was a guy dancing and a girl dancing, and they danced for 20 minutes nonstop. And I don't think I blinked in that time. I mean, he was shirtless and all you saw was the sweat glistening off his body, which just made his movements so much more, you know? And the thing with the woman he was dancing with was she had her eyes on him so intently. I'm not going to say it was erotic because it actually wasn't erotic. It was just very sensual, you know, because she's watching him to see what's he going to do next. How do I answer him? And he's watching her saying, are you going to take the lead from me in what we are creating here? The whole world around them didn't matter. Someone saw me standing there tapping my foot to the drumming, which is of course live drumming, live flute, live musicians. And someone said, hey, you should try this. And I thought, oh, I could never do that. And they pulled me out and I lost myself in drum song. I won't say that I knew what I was doing because I most certainly didn't. I thought, I need to pursue this, you know? And someone said, you know, that lady over there is teaching class tomorrow. You should probably try it. So I went and took this class the next morning and was introduced to a teacher that was actually from my area. And that's where my journey started. Every Sunday I'd go for 2 hours, shimmies, chest rotations, undulations, learning that men's hips do not push as far left and right as a woman's hip does, learning how to adapt that so that I could still get the same visual play of the movement, even if my body wasn't doing exactly the same as the women in the class were. I started going to events on a regular basis, and we had a big boom at that point in my medieval group where belly dance blew up. It became a subculture unto itself inside our group. It gave me an interest in the Middle East that I don't think I previously had. I understand a lot of the Middle East a lot better now, because I understand the history of the Middle East and various parts of the Middle East. And I understand the people and the culture, and damned if I don't understand the food, you know? Like at some point, I hooked up with someone who actually is also from California, and I call her my dance muse because she's really the one who kind of pushed me through the next 2 steps of my dance journey. And this was Alexis Yael, who I don't know if any of you out there know her. She went to Berkeley and she danced for a long time in the Bay Area. But Alexis had moved to Toronto, and she's very American. Why I say she's very American was that she has the attitude that most Canadians see as very American, which is, there's a show over there, let's go dance in it. But we don't know these people. We haven't been introduced, is the Canadian response. It's like, well, then let's go introduce ourselves because we want to dance in the show. Well, I don't know if I want to dance in the No, we're going to dance in the show. Don't bring your costume. But and before you can finish your sentence, we're being introduced to the people, and they're going, oh, you dance? Sure, okay. And it's like, oh, now we're involved in this thing. And she would very politely push. So she started taking me to professional gigs. Up to that point, I had been a relatively shy young man. I was very bookish. I worked in my job. I kept my head down. I did what I had to do. I paid my bills. And she pulled me out of my shell because she would say stuff like, be bigger during your performance. And I'm going, I don't understand what that means. She's going, these people are looking at you and we're on an outdoor stage and the stage is swallowing you and you can't do that. That's why she's my muse, is that she sees inside my soul, in a sense, you know? And if there's no romantic relationship, but she's very intuitive. And she goes, I see see inside you. There is a bigger person inside you. I want to see that person. My persona, the social construct in baby form, became a bigger person on stage. And it made me personally a bigger person because I realized just like facets of who I was that I had always either just sort of held down because, society doesn't want you to be rude, or society doesn't want you to be loud. And what I realized is that society doesn't give a crap what I do. I need to live who I am, and society be damned. So Alexis got us what I considered at that point a humongous gig. We were dancing at the Royal Ontario Museum in Toronto, and it's the big Canadian museum. It's huge, And we danced in the Great Hall, which people pay $1 million to have their weddings in there, And we managed to dance at a show in there, and I got spotted by the best belly dancer in all of Canada, which is Yasmina Ramzy. So Yasmina basically saw me up on this stage and approached me afterwards, and she said, I know you haven't gone through my school, but I see that you've had some training. Would you be interested in maybe teaching at my school? Because I'd love to do a men's class. I'm trying to pull together my company, and I'd like some more men in my company. And I said, if you're willing to show me what you want me to do, I'm more than willing, So I started teaching ATS at Arabesque Academy in Toronto. I started also taking folklore with Yasmina because she was trying to pull together a folkloric troupe within her larger troupe. She wanted to do a big show of folklore, but a lot of Egyptian folklore, she wanted men to be part of it because they would be in most Egyptian shows. We did all sorts of stuff, and then she put on this humongous show. And her rule in Arabesque was always, you became a full company member after you did a full show, as long as you didn't mess it up, So after doing her first show, I became a full company member of Arabesque. We did a lot of wedding gigs. We did a lot of theater gigs. I made it through 3 shows before I left Arabesque because I had at the same time started doing a lot of ATS stuff. I was teaching in my own right elsewhere, and I was starting to make a name for myself within ATS. I had been taking all sorts of training with various members of Fat Chance Belly Dance at that point, including like the occasional private with Carolina. I had decided to go in an ATS direction because I really loved dancing with other people freely, as opposed to dancing other people's choreography with other people, but not getting to interact with them. I ended up pursuing ATS. I left the Arabesque company because I just really couldn't focus on it anymore. It was taking up a lot of my time, and I was making my living teaching ATS. I became the first brother studio for Fat Chance Belly Dance. I was the first guy who graduated from that program. And I started trying to market myself, which is hard because there's still an element of that shy guy in me. So saying, hey, hire me. Hey, let's go. Let me come to teach you stuff. It's still a bit of a struggle. Social construct of Valizan can do it quite nicely. Rob struggles to say, hi, how are you? So I started teaching all over Southern Ontario and doing workshops. And then I got invited to workshops in New York State, because Buffalo is like an hour away. I started going to different places in the States to do the occasional workshop. Then I got invited to Europe. So then we come to 2020, and my entire career and everything I do screeches to a halt. It's been a thinking time. There have been some dark moments in here, and I will admit to all of you out there, I was struggling a bit. I mean, you dance from age 30 to age 50, and something you have done constantly, nonstop for 20-something years, all of a sudden you stop. I'm struggling to get myself back into dancing. I don't even dance around my own house at times because mentally something is going on. I don't even know what it is, but mentally something is going on where I just can't tap into dance. The gumption isn't there. I don't want to. And my body's saying no. I basically spent most of 2020 not dancing and puttering around my house and playing with my cats and just living my life locked in and all that. November, I decided I needed to start pushing myself to break out of that because having overthought the whole thing, I came to the conclusion I'm not ready to stop dancing yet. I still love it way too much.
And I mean, the thing is we've talked to a number of our guests, and the one thing that we all complain about is that online shows, they aren't the same as in person, yada yada yada. And nobody's saying that they're the same as in person or better than. But the thing is that online shows are absolutely better than not dancing at all. I will absolutely set up my camera at my mom's house because that's where I have space to dance, and put on my drag and dance at a laptop, and I can't see anybody because I've been spotlighted on Zoom, so all I can see is myself, and I'm like, I don't want to look at myself right now. I just gotta dance at the light where the camera is. But I will do that every week over like not dancing at all, and just, you know, as Faizeh talked about on our live cast, just like staring out the window, you know, on Wii. Like, I will definitely do this every time over that.
I'm loving that as a thought, which is that it's better than not doing anything. It is better than letting what you've let your history and let your experience float away down the river.
It's so interesting to hear you talking about Valizan as if it's a different person from Rob, because I can tell you Faizeh is not a different person from Jill. And so I have a question. Is it a social construct, or more like a piece of you that has its own name?
The answer is both. Valizan started as something in the medieval group, you know, the SCA.
Right.
Where you put on a persona. And when I joined the SCA, it was, my lord, my lady, how are you? I am of noble birth. And it's like, okay, I'm not noble birth my ass, you know. In real life, it's like I'm not of noble birth, at least not that I know. So that was kind of where I would go away for weekends and be this other person. And it was different from me because I'm noble, I'm being extra polite to people. It would help me discover myself as one facet of the jewel. I always look at myself as this jewel. I mean, it's got cat hair on it and like dust because my floor, but it's a jewel. I'm the dusky jewel. Rob has many facets. Rob has a big black facet at the top. Rob has a gay facet. Rob has an SCA facet. Rob has a beautiful point that is belly dance, you know? All of those are parts of me that I consider part of my persona. And some facets get more attention than others. Those two groups, I started being Valizan in the SCA, and I started dancing in the SCA. And then my dance life became more dominant than my SCA life, but I was Valizan in that one too. And my students know me as Valizan, and my SCA people know me as Valizan. But my high school friends know me as Rob. My aunts and uncles know me as Rob. My neighbors in my house know me as Rob, though some of them have gotten mail addressed to Valizan and said, this is your unit, what's this? So I have to do the explanation, that's my dance name. I call it the social construct of Valizan because while it is a facet of who I am, it is not the main facet of who I am. And I'm not entirely sure I know who the main facet is, but I know Valizan is not it, nor do I want it to be. I really want that to be just a facet of who I am. Because if people lock you into being one thing, you can't spread your wings without having to fight to do it. And I'm too damn old for that anymore. The facet of me that decided at 30 that he was gay, that was a big facet for me. You know, up to that point, I had lived my life as somebody else. It was like, I go to work, I talk to my friends maybe on a weekend, I clean my house, I do whatever, I'm quiet. I realized that I was very unhappy with my life in certain ways and was holding myself back. You'll find a lot of gay men who, when they come out later on in life, that is one of the things they will consider is that I wasn't living my life, you know? And I decided at 30 that it's like, my friends are living their lives. They are going places, doing things, seeing people. Occasional sex would be nice, but you know, it's like all these things, they're living their lives and I work and that's all I do. And then I come to my house and I hide away and I hide this person away because I don't want people to discover who it is. I don't care anymore. If anything that either the construct of Valizan is known for, it's this attitude of, I just really don't care. And that's where Rob and the construct agree. I don't care what people think of me anymore. It's like I'm a 50-year-old man who basically shows his belly off and shakes all his bits. I don't care if you like it or not, or if you have judgment. I don't care. I cannot live my life having other people dictate to me what my life is. That's not how it works for me. Sorry.
I think that's a product of our generation that you came out later in life. Because, you know, in the 80s, it was still like everyone just thought if you were gay, then clearly you had HIV or whatever.
Yeah.
Obviously, earlier than that, I don't remember much before that because I was little.
It was illegal.
But
Yeah. Well, it's like I can do this. It's like you're a pedophile, you are deviant, you have a mental problem, you're ill. I'm not here for your condescension. I don't care. I have members of my own family who, before I came out, who said all sorts of nasty things because they didn't know any better. They didn't know. They knew better. But they said that because they figured it was safe to say that in front of all of the family because we were all straight. After the fact, only one of them ever came and said to me, I've said some nasty things in the past in front of you and I realized that and I apologize because no matter what, I care for you, And I gotta admit, I didn't expect that.
It's wonderful that they did that.
All right, I'm gonna bring up a subject just on the off chance because I don't want us to lose time. Because I gotta end. If we're gonna end it, I want to end it on a dance note. So
I wasn't about to end it, but
oh, I thought you were. I
was gonna ask you something.
You gotta go now, kid. I didn't want to end this without talking about how Fat Chance belly dance style has changed in the last 2 years.
That was what I was gonna ask you. So
oh, good. I have some issues with some of the changes that have happened. But because of the interconnectedness that exists in the diaspora, if you dare speak out, you get canceled, you get trampled, you get whatever. The first thing that happened was that we decided that as a group that we were going to embrace people who were non-binary by adding in the term partner studios, right? I support that. I have no problem with that because the option was still there for those of us who wanted to call ourselves a brother studio or a sister studio. If you want to call yourself a partner studio, sure. We then decided that we were going to change the name from we had issues with the term tribal, which came from outside of the ATS community. Donna Mejia basically started this ball rolling. I gotta admit, I have the greatest respect for Donna. She is an excellent teacher. She's a wonderful intellectual person. I don't agree with her on this, but we live in a time where we are being sensitive to cultures that are not our own. I'm in full support of that, but I also think that we have now pushed beyond a degree of sense with how we are doing it. We can't actually have a discussion on it without it becoming you're not being supportive. You are not welcome because you have a view that is different from changing this to support people who are not whatever. We as white people have to be sensitive to people who are not white and their cultures, and that's where my problem started. And it is, for me, it was the word tribal. When people started beating everybody over the head that we had to change. I was a journalist in my former life. I was an editor for 12 years, worked in a daily newspaper, suffered the wonderful world of journalism, did the daily grind, saw the world at its ugliest, The idea that a word that has a very general definition was all of a sudden limited to one group of people, I had an issue with, and I was not allowed to argue it without being shouted down or trampled. And I discovered that the dancers in the ATS dancers in South America were also upset because it doesn't mean the same thing to them. In South America, most of them have come from different tribes. To them, ATS is just one more tribe.
Right.
I looked at it from the point of view of when you look at the dictionary definition of what a tribe is, ATS in its own way is a tribe. Our dance is our language. It is our culture. We have costuming that is specifically our culture. We have language that we use within our culture, And now what it's turned into is, the names of the moves are inappropriate. This costuming element is inappropriate. And I'm looking at it as you are chipping away at all the elements that made this dance form unique. I can understand if you have someone from a culture saying, I don't like this. But in my years of doing this style, I've been approached once by someone who said, what is this coat you're wearing? This coat looks like a coat that comes from my Persian culture. I said, it is a Turkish coat from the 15th century. I handmade these buttons, blah blah blah. I love the way it looks on me. I know where the culture it is that it came from. In fact, I can document it to the 15th century down to the city that it came from in Persia. And they said, but why would you wear it? You know, they're not offended. They just don't understand why someone who is obviously not Persian is wearing it.
Right.
And I would explain to them, it's like, I've had a long love of studying the Menat culture. You know, I'm fascinated by the cultures, and mainly because of the clothes and the food and the dance. But I said, I'm fascinated by it. And this is my small way of learning more about it by doing it and making it myself. And they're okay with it, and they move on. They said, also, your dance moved me. And, you know, and I live for that. I live for that. We don't get paid much to be belly dancers, you know. We're not all Galina, you know. I mean, we're not all Rachel Bryce. There's like, wow, there's 5 belly dancers who actually make really good money. The rest of us, it's great. I'm okay with that because I live for someone who said, you moved me. So the whole thing with changing ATS, the person in the ATS community who pushed it hardest is a very good friend of mine. I stopped arguing with people out of respect for her. She's a First Nations woman, Canadian First Nations, and she said, I went and asked my elders about this and they don't like this. And while I don't agree with her elders, it's not my culture to play with, you know? If they say they don't like it, that's a Canadian elder and I am in Canada. You know, and I'm still cooking in my head why, other than my love for my friend, why I'm listening to her elders, because I could just as easily go to elders here in Ontario and they'd say, it has nothing to do with us, because I've done that. I went to a university-educated Anishinaabe elder who is a friend of mine, well, a friend of mine, and he said, it's got nothing to do with us. Right. This is nothing to do with the word tribal is a generalized word. Unless you're going to start stealing specifically from my culture. Yes, I will come down on you if I see trappings of my culture. But he goes, I've seen a picture of you. I haven't seen anything of our culture in what you're doing, you know? And the term tribal is a generalized term. I mean, he said, if you want to be sensitive to us, we'll of course appreciate it because we have had issues for centuries. But he says, I personally don't see an issue with it. I listened to the South American dancers who weighed in on it, and they were mad because they said, so you're trying to be culturally sensitive, but all the white people made the decision for all the rest of the world of ATS dancers. You know, we the South American dancers didn't get a say in this because most of us would have said no, but you guys decided to do it anyway. We changed it into fat chant belly dance style, which, you know what, I'm not actually following that unless we're talking about officially. You know, if I have to do something official, I will say this is known as fat chant belly dance style because that's its actual title. But I am not going to be calling my troupe that. We are going to go with something else. I don't remember what it is off the top of my head because I'm not part of Fat Chance Belly Dance. You know, I am not part of the troupe, which doesn't really exist anymore. Carolina is semi-retired. She's not dancing anymore. The last old school member of the troupe has left. So there's none of the originals are there anymore. And as far as for me personally, I'm not calling myself something. If I'm going to make a change, I'm going to change it to something that actually tells people what we're doing. I'm not going to call it something which is advertising for something which also doesn't tell anybody what we're doing. If we're going to make a change, let's make it a change that actually helps the style, you know?
Yeah. I kind of went through some of the similar things as you. I went to a gentleman whose job it is here in California. He is an Indigenous man himself, and his job is to advocate and speak on behalf of the Indigenous people, or a specific tribe, and I don't remember which one it is. Yeah. That is his job. And so when I became aware of the controversy, I was like, this doesn't make sense to me because this is exactly what this word means. These people that I'm dancing with are my family. So, yeah. And he actually was like, yeah, you're using it exactly right. It has nothing to do with us. And so for a while, I was very like, and I kind of dug my heels in. For me, though, I came to the point where I was like, if calling it something else is going to create less pain for people, then I'll call it something else. It's not, and it's easy for me to do that because that style is now my hobby and not my main focus. So it's easy for me to do that. But that was kind of what I came to, was like, it's just a word. We can call it, what was it that Amy Sigil said? We can call it
Skippity Scop.
Skippity Scop. We can call it Skippity Scop. It doesn't matter if we all agree that this is what it means.
Carolina has all but retired, and now we have the additional politics of people jockeying to be the next Carolina. It's like, this person wants to now be able to tell everybody how we're all going to do it. And this person also wants to all tell everybody how we're going to do it, you know? And I'm looking at it and say, it's like, I barely listened to what Carolina was telling me. Why would I listen to you? I also acknowledge that I'm an artist in my own right who creates things in my own right. I am not part of Carolina's company, you know? She is not my director of my company, and I'm not part of her company. I have to make decisions for the people I am dancing with, who are in my troupe or who are my students. If we're going to a gig and I'm in charge, I make decisions. I'm not waiting for Carolina to tell me how to run my company, my life, or how to help people in Southern Ontario. She's not here for that. And she's not going to be. And I don't expect her to be. She gives people a lot of latitude to do what they need to do. And I admit it, when it comes to, if there's a box and all the ATS pieces are on the inside, I sit on the lip of that box, and sometimes I jump out onto the other side of the box, always holding on to the box. I hold on to my ATS base, but I freely admit that I create my own moves and I experiment outside of it, you know. Some of it works and some of it doesn't.
Well, that was my understanding of ATS, and one of the reasons why we were using that is not just because when I was part of Gin Swizzle, Faizeh made us all be part of the, this lasted like 2 months, I feel like. We were all supposed to be part of like the administration of the actual Facebook fan page and like be putting out posts. So to understand what I was doing better, I was doing a bunch of research. And so one of the things that I was doing was like, I started researching and showing videos of the dance styles that have influenced ATS. And my understanding was that it is a lot of nomadic groups, because they were talking about North Africa. They were talking about Rajasthan. They were talking about flamenco. And so they're talking about a lot of nomadic groups that are very tribal.
Yeah.
And then, so first of all, those are the influences of this dance. And yes, they all come to America, you know, and it is a white person who has arranged them how she sees fit.
Yep.
But this is what it is. And then also the reason why it was kind of, for a minute, disingenuous to call it Fat Chance Belly Dance is because even before we were calling it Fat Chance Belly Dance style, there was an issue with calling it American tribal style if you were not doing Carolina Naricchio's moves.
Yes.
She wanted you to call it something else.
Yeah.
She wanted you to call it something else. And then people came up with international tribal style, and she was mad about that. But like, that was the thing, is that we all had dialects, because Gin Swizzle was not a purely Fat Chance Belly Dance style troupe.
Yeah.
So therefore we had our own dialect.
Yeah.
And so, which a lot of sister and brother studios and partner studios had. They had their own dialect.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
tribes here. Because, you know, the other thing is like, it's American tribal style. Well, this looks nothing like American tribes. Fine. But even the tribes here have their own dialects. They have, like, there's so many dialects of Mayan as an example of an American tribe. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So, and that's what we did. We had our own dialects. Gin Swizzle had its own dialect. And so that was one of the reasons why, for me, and I don't do it enough now. For me, it's a fun thing to break out at an SCA event. Like, I love being able to go to an SCA event and dance with my friends, but I don't perform it.
Yep.
So for me to say that I dance this style would just not be factually correct.
I always looked at ATS as if Raqs and Egyptian style is downtown urban, you know, supper club, polished. ATS is like folklore. You go to one village and you're in an area where all the tribes are at. You know, they're separated by a couple of miles. You go to one tribe, you all speak the same language, but the accent is going to be different as you go from town to town, because they have developed separately from whatever. When they have the big fair and everybody shows up, they can all speak the basic language, you know, and I can still understand you if your accent is different from mine. And I don't see that as a problem. And I think that's one of the things with I'm going to be interested to see what happens in the after times, you know, because nobody is dancing right now. There are no theaters, there are no festivals, there are no street festivals, there's nothing.
Dark time.
And ATS, it doesn't work online. It really does not. Watching 4 screens with everybody turning at the same time and doing stuff. Yeah, there goes Faye. All the things that keep ATS interesting and fascinating. Yeah, we can't do that online, you know. I can't share in that group energy with my troupe online. I need to dance with them in person. I want to dance with them in person. So I'm going to be very interested to see what happens once the whole world gets back on its feet and pulls its pants back up off its knees, you know. Like, I mean, I am really sort of charged to think that we're going to be so pent up with dancer energy that the first 2 years we're going to do some kick-ass creative dancing, and there's going to be so much passion and energy in it because it's all pent up inside, you know.
Yep.
But we got to get to those times, and we're not there yet.
Yeah. Valizan, can you please tell us where your social media is so our fans who are now in love with you can find you?
You know, I'm looking for a new friend since I'm making enemies on a regular basis. So you can find me at www.valizan.com. I am on Twitter as Valizan Dancer, but you probably don't want to follow me there unless you're into politics. I am also Valizan Dancer on Instagram, and I have some beautiful pictures up there of me doing various goofy things and in costume and with my troupe and with my girls. I am on Facebook, but I'm currently in Facebook jail, so probably don't want to look there. Let's not get into that. And Shades of Araby, which is my troupe, would be the official place to go look for stuff relating to me and my troupe. And we are there and that's not locked down. I haven't put anything up because we haven't been doing anything, of course. But there's videos on there. There's links to videos. There's pictures of my girls, pictures of me. And when we're doing stuff, that's where we post.
Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me. It's good to talk with other dancers, you know.
Well, that was Valizan. Valizan, thank you so much for joining us. We had a wonderful time discussing everything with you. But that's it for us this week. So I'm Perizaad.
I'm Faizeh.
And please give us a like, comment, or subscribe if you haven't already. If Valizan said something that really fired you up, tell us in the comments. But otherwise, we will see you next week. Masalama!